That's right, Will. We are going. Good evening and welcome. Momentous Live, episode 82.
Wow.
I'm Tristan Jutra.
That was.
I'm William Silver.
I'm Greg Williams, and 82 was the number on my football jersey when I played football for that one season in high school. Oh, that's what I
Nice.
got for you.
82 is the year that I always quote when talking about those, like a sweet navy blue mesh crop top t-shirt that says Maui 82. I think we could all use one of those.
And you can buy that on our Amazon affiliate link. Definitely.
There we go. On theme merch coming your way.
Yeah.
All right, so you may notice that once again we are Tasia-less. So hopefully she'll be back
Tasia-less
next
in
week.
Seattle.
She'll be
It's
Tasia-less in
condition.
Seattle, yes. Hopefully she'll
Which
be
is in
back
Seattle?
next week. And you may have also noticed that it's a Monday because
What now?
two of the three of us remaining folks here are going to be at some stadium for the Super Spreader event of October. And I'm so excited I can't even say Super Spreader properly anymore. So, Gray, you want to tell everyone where we're going to be? Not together, but, in the same building.
We're probably together in spirit and in probably similar sections of the stands. We're going to go see Florence and the Machine, which is extremely exciting. Now, you joke about Super Spreader. My dad's employee, one of the guys I went to high school with, Paul, went to go see Rage Against the Machine. So my dad heard "and the Machine" and was worried that I was going to get COVID. So there.
So we'll just rage against Florence if she...
I would actually like to see that rap battle. I think it would be good for everyone involved.
Well, maybe you can get on a mashup for us here. Okay.
Sure.
We've got all sorts of stuff, including a whole bunch of follow-ups. So let's get to it, shall we? A few weeks ago, we talked about Apple's September event and all sorts of fun things they announced, including some updated AirPods Pro. But one fun little feature in the AirPods Pro that wasn't really talked about was the fact that if you get custom engraving, which if you order directly from Apple, then when you go to connect your AirPods Pro to your device, it will show the custom engraving in the user interface on your phone.
What?
Now,
Right?
can we take this one step cooler? Because
Sure.
they now feature, well, that's weird. It's doing some tracking on me here. They now feature Memoji as a possible option
Mm-hmm.
for your
Oh wow.
your engraving now, which is extremely cool because Ray just updated my Memoji like half an hour ago. It's face tracking again. Oh, it's doing face lock. Weird. Don't do that. I'm supposed to zoom in. So she just updated my Memoji, and so now I just ordered these literally right before I saw this story. So this is doubly awesome for me.
There you go. So not only can you look at your dystopian cartoonish face on your device itself, but also on your phone when you go to connect.
It's pretty dystopian.
The dystopia where we all kind of look the same shaped nose, and all that kind of stuff.
You say that. One of the things you notice is that there's a whole bunch of new nose shapes.
Oh,
and
there's
it's
new
this one
noses?
is way more you.
Finally.
Yeah, that's correct. I do have an Memoji stylist. And I think it's a service that we should all have made available to us.
But is she available for consultation? That is the question.
Well, yeah.
All right. Next up in follow-up, we have, I guess it was last week. Last week we were talking about smashing spacecraft into asteroids. And we said it's going to be a little while before we start to get some data about whether the NASA's DART, D-A-R-T program actually managed to divert the incoming pair of asteroids that were not really hurtling toward Earth, but just doing their own thing. And we're just testing to see if we could divert them at a significant amount, that if they were coming toward Earth, that they would then miss Earth by enough distance to be safe. So just the one little update there is that one of the telescopes on Earth, this one in Chile that was tracking DART, has spotted a huge debris. I can't speak. It sounds like someone's got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah.
The huge debris trail from said crash test. So not only have we had an amazing bright Jupiter in the sky over the weekend, but now, if you're in Chile at a high-powered telescope, you can now see a debris trail from us smashing things into asteroids. Gray, any thoughts on this update to this exciting story that will hopefully save us in the future someday?
Well, yeah, because I mean, to think about this, this is kind of cool because this is one of the first, well, probably the first time, hopefully, in human history where we have actually created a noticeable from space, and not just ours, stellar event, right? And so here's the thing: if the Vulcans or wherever else, if they are out there and they're looking, this is probably at least a misdemeanor. You know, I think like if there is something out there that's watching us right now, waiting for us to develop warp drive or whatever else, this is probably the thing that's like, okay, so the nuclear thing, we see you guys had that a while back. Yeah, you've sent a couple of things out past the heliopause. We're gonna have to ask you to stop knocking shit about.
You're throwing things out of the crib and hitting other things now.
Yes.
Space crimes and misdemeanors.
I'd like to think of you like, look, okay, so here's the thing. We don't have, the equipment to move it naturally, so we've gone with billiards. And that's, right. So, awesome. Like in the true sense of the word. Like,
yeah.
I am awestruck by the fact that we hucked something millions of miles and hit another thing in a way that could actually save our lives. The lives of our species. Like, that's great. So, I'm excited to see more, and hopefully we don't see anything exiting out into the trail, because at that point we're probably screwed.
What about the tiny spacecraft that's actually inside the asteroid or its moonlet?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Anything comes out through that hole, they're probably not going to be happy. Like,
we've awoken from our slumber and now we're coming to get you.
Yeah. Or just like, hey, do you guys have insurance papers? Because I think you caused this.
Yeah.
Right? So.
So hopefully
one free accident. Don't bug us.
Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll actually start to get some data on this, and there'll be further follow up on this story that we're following closely here at Momentous HQ. And other follow up news, our favorite eccentric tech entrepreneur, Elon Musk, in his ongoing will he, won't he, will they, won't they case about buying Twitter, a whole bunch of text exchanges have been revealed as part of evidence regarding the him trying to back out of the deal now. And one of the kind of interesting insights gained from these text messages is the other Silicon Valley elite who have been communicating with Musk during this whole process, including Twitter co-founder and former CEO Jack Dorsey, current Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal, and then folks like Joe Rogan, even Gail King, other Silicon Valley investors such as Jason Calacanis, and one of the other, Larry Ellison, of course, founder and CEO of Oracle, Mark Andreessen, the creator of Netscape and also a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, Tim Urban, a prominent blogger and writer, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce.com, Steve Jurvetson, another Silicon Valley VC, and others. So one of the other things that I noticed from these various interactions is that Musk is a lot more measured in his direct messages and text messages with people than he is on Twitter. He's a lot more restrained. It's a lot less performative, more to the point, and maybe he's thinking, well, this stuff could end up in evidence someday. So, whereas the other stuff's like, oh, it's Twitter. What's the big deal, right? So it's just interesting to see the different sides of the personality here when it's a private conversation versus a public performative one. Will, any thoughts come to your mind when seeing some of these other little bits of information drip out into the public sphere regarding this evolving story? See where it goes.
Well, it's not surprising that he's more measured in his personal life, because otherwise, no one would hang out with him. So I think it's probably preserving his own social activities. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. People act wilder on Twitter or on social media than they do in personal conversations. So yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before. I don't love Elon, so I hope they get him on this because he did cause quite a fuss. So, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting just to observe someone who is acting so extreme is not extreme in real life.
Gray, do you think this Twitter deal is going to go through or not? Or do you think there's enough of a case with what we've been talking about in previous weeks from former security chief at Twitter regarding some of their sloppy practices and actually larger number of bots than originally claimed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, even though, Musk didn't really have the due diligence clause in the contract itself. Do you think this is going to end up happening for the asking or the price he was offered, maybe a lower price, or is he going to be able to walk away with maybe just like a big fine?
I think he's probably going to be able to walk away by paying folks off. Like, as far as a fine goes, this is he's paying to get out of jail monopoly. It's also kind of embarrassing to see all of these folks having these conversations because they seem like exactly what we think they are. A lot of the folks in the room here, they're very talented and they're very smart, but they're not super geniuses. And it seems like in a lot of cases, sometimes tech brilliance is actually right place, right time, right people. Musk right here. This makes it seem like I'm desperate. Please stop. This is like leapt, looked. Whoops. Like I'm happy because I think that he's got lots of great work ahead of him to do, not with Twitter. And I enjoy Twitter.
Focus. I mean, you've already got enough like meaningful things. Well, not that Twitter's not meaningful, but it's just such a different type of enterprise where he is. I think can really, set his sights on the big engineering challenges and social media. Come on.
This always seemed like him just being like a troll in his spare time. This was just trolliness.
I disagree. Because the thing is, when you take a look at all of the stuff that he's bought, he does want to better things, right? And so I'm going to have to agree with you, have to disagree with you. I think he wanted to better Twitter, and he said call it like a place of public discourse. I think he had lofty visions of what it was going to be, but that's not actually what Twitter is, right? And it's just like, okay, so you saw a very different cake than one that was already half baked here, and now you want to, I don't know, add ingredients in the oven and try to bake this thing? No. And you're right, because I think the motivation was he was tired of being trolled and did want to troll other people. But I don't think he was trolling all of us with the offer. I think it does focus around trolling, but also has this weird, like, we'll make the world a better place. And you're like, Elon, stick to the batteries, man.
Exactly.
So I agree, but also disagree.
Well, yeah. And there's a reason why Disney had a look at Twitter and then went, nope. So in other Elon Musk news, Tesla had its annual AI Day 2022 last week, which rather than showing off a person in a skin-tight robot outfit, they actually showed a working demo of an upright bipedal robot. And this is known as Optimus. And the demo was, in some ways, if you're used to seeing Boston Dynamics videos, it didn't seem like it was that special because Boston Dynamics has shown us so many amazing videos over the years, and they've gone viral online. And we've seen quadruped robots like that that walk kind of like dogs, and then we've seen bipedal ones that can do gymnastics and all that. I think the thing with this story is this development has largely been occurring in the space of about a year. Like they probably started on it a bit before the last AI Day, but only wanted to show off, they didn't want to show anything because it was too early. And a lot of the developments have happened since February. So the pace at which this is happening is quite remarkable. And there's a lot of tech that they're repurposing from their self-driving research that is all camera related. Unlike other automakers, they have not been going with LiDAR at all. They're going with pure vision systems because Musk has said humans use their eyes. Most animals use their eyes. They're not, aside from bats and things like they're using echolocation, it's using your eyes is good enough for most of the animals out there. So it should be good enough for cars. And in this case, robots as well. So they're all in on camera tech and really eschewing LiDAR. So there's potentially a virtuous cycle here of going from the cars to Optimus, the robots, and then back to the cars again as they learn from these different environments. And it's very early days when asked when Optimus might hit the market for someone to buy. 3 to 5 years, maybe. He's saying like he wants to get a basic domestic robot under 20 grand. I mean, if it's anything like previous promises, it's going to be like 8 to 10 years and more like 50 grand. But we'll see, right? Like at least they're trying. There's a lot of real stuff. So one of the they had one walking on its own for the first time in public, and then they had another one more advanced, but was not walking on its own yet. It still had a tether. So there's interesting stuff to be seen here. They also talked about the other self-driving features, and also they have a something called Dojo, which is a supercomputer that was revealed last year, and they've made progress on that. Some crazy supercomputing power. They claimed the most powerful supercomputer in the world for their AI research and so on. So, you know what I just noticed, Gray, is that we both have my name on there.
Oh, that's right.
It's like I saw a message in the chat from myself. It's like, wait a second, is that like from the parallel universe? I guess we're using the same.
You've seen the talented Mr. Ripley, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good news and bad news.
What is your point, Tristan Jutra?
Okay, so I'm going to figure out how to change this in a second. But what I was going to say here is I mentioned before that all of Elon's technologies are about getting us off this planet and onto other ones. And this is actually a fascinating play in both AI, and the backup is fly-by-wire telemetry on these Android bodies. We got lots of people in the world that soon as the automation revolution continues, will have not much to do. We're already seeing this with Boston Dynamics. People are using VR and AR to basically use telemetry to get into these robots and then have these robots use the human being as a processor to decide what to do. This is what this is all about.
Can we fight kaiju with him?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So basically, two pilots, no. But yeah, you've actually got the right idea there. Sending people to Mars, we've always been told the first generation will be a one-way trip. But what if that one-way trip was actually through quantum entangled radio waves? Now there, you don't have this delay to get the radio signal there. And we could basically have a human force on the ground in the form of these bodies, basically doing the stuff that we need them to do. And you don't have to die on Mars. So this is kind of I think it's the fascinating thing that, we're building towards here. The AI, if the AI can handle it, great. But there's always going to be those sensitive operations where the AI, it's not going to make the right decisions. Or, it's not trained for it. It doesn't have the database right now to figure that out. And the decision making isn't there. So I'm this right here, I see this. That's the last piece of the puzzle. We had the tunnels, we had the base, we had the power. All of these things are there. The way to safely populate the moon, asteroids, Mars, even that slight layer of Venus that has oxygen in it, is with this to make sure that everything's safe so the red carpet's rolled out when we get there. I'm super stoked about it.
Now, Will, would you rather pilot a robot on Mars or go there yourself?
Robot.
Right?
You know me.
How about a robot cat? Now if Elon really wanted stuff to go viral, they would have robot cat. I mean, Boston Dynamics, sure, they got a robot dog, robot cat. That's where it's at.
Dog's got nothing on cats on the internet.
Yeah, just wait till it shreds your furniture, though.
Yeah.
So, any thought? Well, actually, there's a couple other stories related here. For further reading, those who are interested, some robotics experts have weighed in on the what they saw at the 3-hour Tesla AI Day presentation. So one of the robots was named Bumble C, which was shown as a rough development robot. The second robot was fairly close to what will go in production, apparently. So the one was an external covering. I mentioned some of the other claims about timelines and price and the like. But have a look at what some of these robotics professors are saying, because even though what is being shown in the demos is not by any stretch cutting edge or mind blowing, what a lot of consensus seems to be is that they've just achieved a lot in a short amount of time, and we would do well to pay attention to what they're up to. There's always some skepticism, and this isn't unusual from academics. That what are they actually going for here? Is this a publicity stunt or what have you? I would imagine that the tens, if not hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars that is being poured into this means it's probably a bit more than a publicity stunt. And further to your point, Gray, is probably part of a larger piece, part of a larger puzzle, just like we've talked about in the past with Hyperloop and the Boring Company and Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and. So
I really think that Elon should actually have specialized pricing for anyone in Gen X or elder millennials, because he's mining our childhood for all the names of his projects. Optimus, great. Bumble C instead of Bumblebee, oh, great, fantastic. You owe us that, Elon.
Yeah, it's you just never know what they're gonna come up with next.
So here's the thing: the hypervisor for Dojo is probably going to be Splinter, right? And then if there's any sort of antivirus, it'll be Shredder. Like, I get it, I know where it's going. Just come on, man.
Yeah, the whole Dojo thing, it's like it doesn't make for as good video, but I think it's just as interesting with what they've got on there. One theory is that to rely less on third-party solutions like AWS for some of their computing horsepower, and B, maybe making a run into cloud computing itself as another revenue center to help fund some of their other ambitions too, and take aim squarely at Jeff Bezos' Amazon empire there. So,
and anything that pushes this forward is going to be good for the whole industry as well. And there are some pretty revolutionary stuff as far as like heat management, cooling. Like there's some cool literally things going on here. And I think the one thing that I find that he does really well, or the teams that Elon owns, they do really well, is looking at something that people accept as the way to do it, right? And they're not reconsidering it because there are games being made in all these other places, and they go and they do something different here, which is they reduce costs or it reduces the amount of heat or the amount of electricity. And sometimes they're not sexy things when you think about it right off the bat, but then they show this is how effective this is, or this is how much of a difference it can make over time. And that sort of, you're not into like geological time, but it's not the like instant change that you get from a processor generation, but over the course of the next 20 years, it's massive. This right here, I think, is a great example of that.
And you never know, you could use the excess heat from all that computing horsepower to keep you warm on Mars.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! William Silver, have you ever used any cloud gaming services where you don't necessarily have to download the game to your device, but you can stream the game to your device?
Yeah, I haven't really played with any of the ones, but I know where you're going on this. I didn't jump in on the service that we're about to talk in. Yeah, it seemed doomed from the start.
Google Stadia.
They put a ton of money in it. They had a ton of big name people from the video game world on the ground floor of this when it first launched, but it just seemed like it was maybe a little bit too soon. It seemed like people didn't trust it. To be honest with you, when Grace sent out the notice that it was shut down when it was announced, I was like, oh yeah, that thing, it's still going. I had forgotten. I hadn't even thought about it in like 2 years. So,
well, apparently you're not alone, because as of January 18th, Google will be shutting down its cloud gaming service, Google Stadia, and refunding everyone's money. And in the meantime, Ubisoft and Bungie, game developers, are scrambling to evacuate players' games and characters from Google Stadia so people could retain some of the equity that they've built up in some of the streaming versions of said developers' games. And they're even going so far as to try to preserve the game states, like the progress in some of these games, for bringing back into more conventional way of playing or onto one of the other game streaming services. So that's, you say, well, maybe it's too early. And I think one of the discussions we've had in the past about Stadia is that, well, yeah, especially if you're talking about Twitch gaming where latency, Twitch, not the Twitch service, but like really, games where you need to respond quickly, any latency introduced by the connection can really throw you off. So it seemed like a non-starter. Like I think Silicon Valley sometimes has the problem where, well, they're all used to having fiber lines to their offices and their homes and whatnot, and they forget that in the real world, a lot of people are on connections that aren't as reliable, aren't as fast, and so on. Now, that being said, Gray, what is NVIDIA and Microsoft doing right that Google can't seem to crack? Is it just not in their? Is gaming just not properly in Google's DNA? Even though engineering ostensibly is.
Well, yeah, so here's the thing. NVIDIA has fans. They have consumers that are passionate about NVIDIA, and honestly, like their GeForce Now service is good, right? I can play my Steam games on GeForce Now on my iPad, and it works. Stadia, I could never get to work properly, and that's on wired gig connections. That's on fast 5G connections. I could never get it to work properly, and it's fascinating. Like Microsoft, their Game Pass, Sony's new whatever it is, PlayStation Plus Plus XL, whatever it is.
Double plus good, yeah.
Yeah. They all come with the online service and the games that included, and Stadia seemed like a mishmash of everything that didn't. All of these services do something well. Google's didn't seem to do anything well. You know what it did well? It was the cheap and easy way for people who were running save point transfer for Destiny 2. So basically, you could get into one of the higher end pieces of content, get to a point in that higher end piece of content, and then transfer that save point around to the community. That was a service that people were using Stadia bots for. And what they're going to do with it now, I have no idea. Probably just, again, we'll have some actual machines running it, which the community saw the value of the Stadia stuff. So it's a great selling point for anybody that wants to take this and turn it into a service for the community. But looking at this, it felt like typical Google hubris, right? Walk into the room, we've got all the hardware, and we're gonna, you're gonna buy the controller, and it's just gonna work, and nothing did. And can I tell you the thing that gets me the most, and it's just like really getting me. Google didn't even tell their own Stadia team until the day it was announced. That is.
I guess they didn't want it to leak. I guess. Yeah.
It's cruel. It's evil. It's dumb. It's bean countery. I can excuse a lot of stuff that they've done. It's mean. And this is why, like, when Google brings out something new and wonderful, I don't get attached ever, because that's all they do. They cradle kill all the time, and even when the toddler is walking, they trip it, they kick it, and I throw it out. How could you use anything from Google at this point? Because it literally is brought to life in the stock with a guillotine blade above its head. It's terrifying.
It's like Gray says. It's like they walked in the room with BDE, just swinging it around and think that they could just own it, even having no experience in the video game space. But like I was also saying, and I think you guys are sort of agreeing, is like they were kind of earlier on this, if I'm not mistaken, than Microsoft, than PlayStation, and to have it, work, as you say, Tristan, seamlessly between all these different devices. And I think now it's even more broad to like Nintendo Switch and stuff like that. But, going across a tablet and a phone and, a laptop or a desktop, I mean, there's some serious, you've got to have that worked out. And it didn't seem like they had that completely worked out. And, in some ways, PlayStation and Microsoft just sort of hung back and waited for them to take the arrows on this one. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for getting in first, like the Xbox 360, but there's something else to be said for getting in on your first attempt and, like you say, stepping on a rake and then letting the other people walk over you.
Well, one of the engineering things that Google did, they thought would help out, was designing a pretty cutting edge controller that you could stream directly back and forth from the controller to help reduce latency. And apparently that still wasn't good enough, but a lot of people really appreciated the tech in the controller. And now there is rumblings that Google might unlock them, and people could then use the controllers for other services. Gray, do you have any insights into this angle?
I really appreciate use of the term rumbling. That's right on point. So well done. I always liked the Stadia controller, but it is just this actually it brings me back to like shades of the Ouya, right? The Android controller. If they can just turn it into a flat Bluetooth controller, great. If they could turn it into a Bluetooth controller with that is able to stream video, would be cool. But I could actually see this as being almost a what's the Google video plugin one? Come on, it's like the Fire TV, Apple TV, Google.
Oh, right, Chromecast.
Chromecast, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the entire time that they haven't been able to use it as a wireless controller, turning that back on at least would be a good feature. It's still like you plug it in, it's still a controller. Being able to wireless would be great. And then if they could get that feature on where this basically becomes a Chromecast, I would forgive them for doing that to this. Yeah, right now it's hamstrung, but it's hamstrung by design. So hopefully they won't unlock it.
I'm looking forward to you finding and then funding some sort of crowdsourced project that enables the Stadia controller to be used with the Playdate.
Oh yeah,
not a bad idea. And here's the thing: they're like, even if a firmware update proves impossible, come on, like we'll have this thing hacked in 3 or 4 months if they don't do it themselves.
One of the other issues that as you guys alluded to a little earlier, was the fact that Google has become notorious for killing these projects when they're still reasonably young. And there's even a website called killedbygoogle.com that tracks all the different projects that Google has killed over the years. Now, to be fair, there is something to be said for focus and streamlining and whatnot. And Apple had a thing probably several years ago talking about 1,000 no's for every yes. Google seems to have a similar strategy approach, but it's the no's come after something's already been out in the wild for a few years, and there's a lot more sort of public beta testing, so to speak, and proving it out. I mean, I get that approach, but the problem with it is when you look at so many of these products and services, when people spend the time to get onboarded with these devices or these services, that's a lot of human hours that are put into that, and then to have the rug pulled out and say, oh sorry, this doesn't work anymore, and you know what, it's your own fault because it was free anyway, or in some cases, in other cases, no, they're actually paid services. At least with Stadia, they're doing right by their users and refunding money, but there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of projects listed on this killedbygoogle.com website. It's remarkable. So it kind of gets to the larger issue as described in TechCrunch a couple of days ago, claiming that Stadia died because no one trusts Google. Like, there's probably a certain number of users. So and we talked about this when amongst ourselves. I think it was pre-Momentous Live when Stadia launched. It's like, is this really going to work? How long is this going to last? And people have been saying the same thing since Stadia ever launched. So Will, how keen? I mean, unfortunately, we don't have Tasia here. She's deepest into the Google ecosystem of any of us. But Will, how do you feel when you see a cool new Google concept coming, whether it's hardware or software? Do you get a little reticent about this, or are you very, I'll jump in and see how it goes?
I kind of feel too. It's like you've been kind of alluding to this about focus, and it feels like companies like Google and even Amazon, like I don't trust them when they go beyond what I see as their expertise. Like search engines or usability software or stuff like that. Amazon with purchasing and stealing other people's bag designs, things like that. But I mean, when you start getting into video games and you're a search engine company, it seems like a little outside your wheelhouse, so I don't know. And Google Hangouts seemed like it was kind of interesting, and again, that was a little cutting edge. That was one of the ones on the list there. It's kind of morphed and turned into other things, or other things have come up. as a result.
How
of
many
that.
Google chat services have there been and are there currently?
Yeah, exactly. So it just kind of seems like they're not focused. They kind of go on flights of fancy. But this is where it's really interesting, as you guys have said in the past, with a company with like Apple, is they do some of this stuff, but they don't tell us about it until it's ready, right? Like whatever car may or may not have been in development, whatever TV may or may not have been in development for the last 15 years.
AR glasses.
So, yeah, AR glasses,
yeah.
all these things. But some of those things, like Google is working on and is happy to tell you about.
And happy to release them and then happy to kill them not long after.
Exactly. So I remember Google Glasses when those came out in like 2013 or whatever, and that was a little bit of a stunt. So, and everyone was like so psyched. I remember we were working at a company together and we were like trying to get information up about it and write an article. And, you know, talk about not being fully baked. Like, you know, so it's hard to take these flights of fancy seriously when it's outside of like their wheelhouse. And that's what I appreciate about companies like Apple. Or
your wife's gonna hate that you're talking about Apple so much.
Yeah, or my way. Yeah, no. I'll tell you something later. Anyway, so, but yeah, Apple's the only company I can think of at the moment. But I know that there are others.
Yes.
And you know, to stay in your wheelhouse and do what you're good at and not sort of do everything. It's often what I think to like the Photoshop problem. I love Photoshop and Photoshop's really good at some stuff. Obviously it's, you know, just a tentpole program. Everyone needs to use it for certain things. But did you also know it does animation? Did you also know it does 3D rendering? Do you also know that it does blah, blah, blah? They keep on feature packing that thing because they will always want to come out with a new version of it. It's like, but you have other pieces of software. You can use other pieces of software. Like it doesn't all need to go into Photoshop. So yeah, anyways, it's a long way of saying specialized, focused, do what you're good at.
Now, of course, companies do branch out because they want to grow. They've got, you know, shareholders to report to and users who get bored unless there's something, you know, new and shiny, and an ecosystem to develop to help keep said users in there. And you had mentioned Apple, you know, their approach is a little different, a little more maybe considered stuff, you know, behind the scenes. And then, you know, because people could say, well, Apple, why do you need to release a watch? Why do you need to release, you know, AR glasses if that ever comes? Like, why are you doing these kinds of things? Shouldn't you stay in your wheelhouse? But what they do tends to be, you know, part of an ecosystem, like the watch, ostensibly, at least when launched, an accessory to the iPhone. And the glasses, again, the iPhone is still the hub for the watch and any potential future AR glasses. The car thing is going to be different altogether. And that's probably why we've been, you know, hearing about it for like 8 or 10 years and nothing has come out yet. Because, you know, cars are hard. Just ask Tesla. Right?
You can branch out for sure, like you're sort of saying. But the thing is, you better know that it's going to work, or you better have a plan. Not just like, hey, we kind of put some money in this silo, and the silo built something, and then we're just going to release it. Like, you know, it's like, have it as an integrated strategy. Or is this a game changer? Do you really have something that is going to change the game? Like you said, Apple has done game changers a bunch of times. The original iPod, like, you know, you could have said that was outside their wheelhouse. You know, so there's things that you're at the right place and right time, and you're going to change the industry. Yeah, branch out. But if you're just going to follow a laundry list of dead software that you just showed off, I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous for Google, right? So you can't say that they're just branching out and perfecting something. They're just kind of tossing darts at a wall.
Gray, real quick before we move on to our next story, how does this affect your trust in Google?
I think we're net on this one. I believe they've discontinued the darts that they're throwing at the wall. They're literally just throwing the wall at itself now.
Ones they borrowed from Samsung?
Tiny funny story. I actually found the Google Wave article that I think I wrote, and then one of you guys edited for a Photoshop thing yonks ago.
Wow.
And I found that literally last week.
Amazing.
So, yeah. Rip Google Wave.
Oh, Google. I'm still Google Reader. We have to mention it at least once a quarter.
Yeah, you were so upset when Google Reader got axed.
So I mean, Feedly's great, and it's still going. So anyway, let's move on. There's the other prominent giant tech company event in this past week was from Amazon. It was actually well, before we get into the event itself, there was news the week before that Amazon had updated its entry-level Kindle and made it better in ways that I can barely remember. Oh yeah, increased the. It was so long ago. I think better screen, better battery life, et cetera, et cetera. The perfect. It's kind of like what the Apple Watch SE is. It's probably the thing that's fine for most people, or the iPhone SE, and so on. So they wanted to do that, get that out of the way before talking about their cooler products, which they announced last week at their annual hardware event. Timed just about just under 2 months before Black Friday. So, you have time to add it to your Amazon wish list, shopping list, and so on. So just a quick once over, and then we'll get your reactions to this, fellas. We have the new, there's a new light thing. What's this called? The Amazon Halo Rise. So it's kind of like there's a line. I have a Philips clock radio that does the light thing. I don't even remember what it's called nowadays.
Apple calls it adaptive lighting for HomeKit when it you get
right.
daylight, so it starts warm, gets into cooler light, and then back again at the end of the day.
Gotcha. And you can
as a echo speaker.
Exactly. This is a neat addition to the Kindle line, the Kindle Scribe, that you can actually doodle on. So this is competition to the Remarkable tablet. There's 2 generations of Remarkable. And so the shots fired from Amazon here. And a lot of people seem to be excited about this for note-taking on a simple e-ink device and not having to pull out your bigger, heavier iPad for this. Because a lot of people who love Kindles for reading, and now you can use them for writing. Some new Echo speakers, of course, powered by Alexa, so as to not trip up anyone's devices. A couple different options here. A bedside, the bedside sleep tracker. That's the Halo. That was just the Hero image there.
Your breath. So it's listening for breathing patterns.
Mm-hmm. And listening for what you sleep, what products are available on Amazon.com that you might be sleep talking about, and they'll automatically add them to your wish list. A new QLED Fire TV, which will have, of course, the Amazon's built-in software there. A Fire TV Cube, which is their equivalent of the like a Chromecast or an Apple TV, but in a pleasing cube format. Looks rather nice. And the Astro robot, and new Ring security devices. Amazon bought Ring a couple of years ago and brought them into the fold, and new Blink cameras as part of their smart home and security stuff. Eero, another company that Amazon brought, great for mesh networking, so nice robust Wi-Fi all over your house, more sophisticated than the old school Wi-Fi extenders, which often cut your speeds by half. And a new Eero power over Ethernet gateway, again for your home networking and smart home purposes. So quite a lot of stuff there. Great. Anything jump out to you as I'm not sure if are you in the Amazon ecosystem at all, and whether or not you are, which of these seem most interesting to you?
I'm not, but my parents are about to be. I'm actually headed back to Ontario for a couple of days later this month to do a full sweep upgrade to their place. I haven't done it in about a decade, and so they're really working on older technology. The Eero Gateway is one of the first, and I'm going to be getting some of the cameras as well, because they live out in the country, and I wanted to be able to kind of get them on a fully automated system that not only they can administer, but I can administer for them. I got to tell you, the TVs look great. It's one of these things where I would probably, buy this thing, never plug it in to the internet, or, it's on and it's limited for firmware updates and that's it. But 75 inches for $1,100 US for the quality of that television is fantastic. It's obviously they're following their loss leader model there. And it's funny because I don't need an e-ink note-taking tablet. But the people at Remarkable seem to think that I do. Because I'm seeing their ads everywhere. And yes, I am tempted, but not at $500. And so this coming in a little less. I'll tell you this. I love that this exists because I would love to see it drive the price of that market to a little bit more of a palatable space. I don't need a 10-inch one. Perhaps I could get a 7-inch from Remarkable. That would be great for me. But I think they're really committed to this, like broadside of the tabloid type of thing. So, like, there's some really, really great stuff here. And I'm happy that it exists because Amazon, I think, is going to push the market for the products I actually want to buy. I won't have some of these in my home. I'm happy to have my parents have them because some of the big brothery stuff that I don't want, I need for my septuagenarian parents. So those are kind of my.
I thought you said subterranean parents.
Well. I don't know if you've seen the Super Mario Brothers movie with anyway. Yeah, I want my parents to have that kind of eyes on from me, and sure, Jeff's gonna be looking as well, but I don't think you can do any damage to them at this point. So, yeah, some really great stuff there. Not for this household, but for one in Ontario, absolutely.
How about you, Will? Have you tested the smart home waters at all? And either way, anything from Amazon's recent announcements that have piqued your interest?
I mean, I like the idea of the TV, as Grace says. I'm a little worried about all connectivity and connecting things. I've never been a huge smart home guy. I do have some lights that are hooked up to an app. I don't know if that's really a smart home type feature, but once in a while it loses connectivity and you turn it on and it like flashes on and off. Like it's like I'm in a sinking ship and it's the alarm going off as everything is going down. So I don't know. I haven't had super great experiences with smart home technology. I'll often use the example that for some reason my washing machine has Wi-Fi capabilities. I'm not sure why it needs.
So it doesn't last as long, and you have to replace it more frequently. That's exactly why.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to joke, what's the use case for that? I mean, I guess it would monitor if I left the house and left my washing machine on, but it's not like I'm like putting all the dishes in, putting the soap in, closing it, leaving the house, and then going, oh, I should set that to go now. So yeah, sometimes I think smart home stuff is a little ridiculous. I think, Tristan, we used to have the joke 15 years ago about Bluetooth tables. The tables needed Bluetooth.
Well, remember at CES there was the Happy Fork, the Bluetooth-enabled like smart fork.
Yeah. So sometimes things are smart for dumb reasons.
Good. Well put.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hugely. There's not much I need in my house that's smart at the moment. So I mean, I like the idea of the TV. As Gray was saying, very sick specs for not that much money, and they are tempting as long as I can lock them down. And we are looking for a TV. So our plasma is getting some weird, like black artifact things up at the top. Maybe it can go to Tristan's home for wayward TVs.
We'll put it to good use.
It'll go out in the backyard and do laps around with the other plasmas. And
it should be noted that the Eero stuff does have Matter support, which, Will, to your point, a lot of the smart home stuff that we have right now is a little janky because it's using older protocols, and Apple, Google, Amazon, they're all moving towards Matter. And so that should be one of those things that kind of eliminates that. The problem is your lights right now probably don't support it. I know a lot of mine don't. Yeah. So it's like,
probably.
Great, the future is going to be so bright, but what are you going to do?
So speaking of things that people may buy and then bin later.
By the way, did you see our messages?
Someone from chat? Yeah.
Sorry, what? Where?
I think I was talking about plasma TVs and someone piped in.
I missed it, sorry.
Here, I got you. No.
Oh, social no. Oh, that's I know who that is.
yeah, exactly.
The other decision maker in your household. Yeah.
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 It's funny because I know for a fact that she doesn't watch the show, so she must have heard me through the door or something. So speaking of things that will soon end up as e-waste, Intel and Samsung show off a fun but impractical slidable PC. So this was part of Intel had a little event in the last couple of weeks as well. and kind of like what LG has been doing with some of their rollable televisions, and of course Samsung with their foldable displays. What we all need now is a laptop with a screen that you can pull and kind of stretch out, and because that rollable surface is going to look so great, especially when you're doing important graphic design work and whatnot. And then of course you have your Bluetooth keyboard with it and puts it together like a laptop. Slidable display, gray, 17-inch slidable display for PCs.
Sure. Honestly, get Penn and Teller to announce this thing, and it's going to be like tens of people will buy it. Yeah, like neat concepts. I've lost command of English because I have no idea who wants this thing. It's neat, but
I mean, I could see like if you're on the road or something and have a second monitor connected. But even then, it's not like you're getting that much extra space. Just by I don't know.
Yeah.
Great. Well, how about you?
Nope. It seems like a problem looking for
Okay,
a
well, let's
solution.
move on then. Speaking of waste, best toys and collectibles revealed at Hasbro PulseCon 2022. Now, we don't cover a lot of toys here. Sometimes video games, sometimes Lego and the like. But there was one slide here, which for some reason is not working. Yes?
Can I just tell you, can I stop you? You don't know this. I've got a Hasbro collectible problem.
You stopped collecting mixers and now you're doing these?
There. No, I've been slowly doing this quietly for years. So I followed that's why I was surprised to see this story, because I actually followed the releases this year. So I'm mostly on the G.I. Joe Transformer angle. So I don't know what you're going to talk about specifically, but I was totally keen on some of the new G.I. Joes and Transformers they released.
So maybe your darling wife, was like, we've got a problem. We need an intervention here. Can you talk about this story and how grown men? Anyway, no, I mean that's fine. It's okay to like things, and people collect all sorts of stuff, whether it's mixers or televisions or old computers. So lots of neat things. Almost everything listed here is some sort of
and there's always
figurine.
room for more, whether it be
mixers
or television sets.
Indiana Jones, also television sets. Yes, G.I. Joe. What's this? Is this like? Oh, it's Transformers.
Dinobots. Slide 14.
But the one thing that caught my attention was something that was not action figures, but was actually Lite-Brite related.
Yes.
And I'm late to this party, but apparently Lite-Brite has like a wall art thing, and now they've announced Transformers Lite-Brite wall art. I mean, that's cool if you're into Transformers, but I just like the idea of Lite-Brite wall art that it's kind of like Lego. You could make it into whatever you want, and people are selling all sorts of different kits with instructions, and you could customize your own Lite-Brite wall art. So it's got that cool kind of. I'm sorry. This whole time I've been flipping through things and I haven't even been showing you. There we go. So it's got that 8-bit pixelated art vibe. I mean, this I could get into. I could see more so than the action figures per se. And this seems like a great marketing opportunity, just like what Lego has done with so many branded Lego sets from Harry Potter to Star Wars and so on. Get on this train of Hasbro could do cross promotions with licensing deals with all sorts of people would eat this up. I know I'd at least consider it. If nothing else, maybe for the set here. So,
well, the other thing is that there are Lego art pieces that are like little studs, and you actually form a picture. So they did like Beatles, they did like stormtroopers and stuff.
But are they backlit? I mean, this is what
they're not backlit, and that's what's extra cool about this, right? So no, I like that a lot. It's really awesome.
Gray, any of these collectible figurines and or Lite-Brites got your attention?
The Lite-Brite thing I think is very cool. I love the Optimus Prime one, and I could actually see owning that, like that as a piece of art here, not obtrusive. Hopefully, wouldn't get me hurt. Yes. Goes on tomorrow. We're fine. But the Serpentor set, I still have my Serpentor and the Air Chariot for when I was a
Nice.
kid. It's one of the few GI Joes that I actually bought with my own money. So looking at that, I'm like, having the two of them side by side in a
that
shadow
sold
box
out right away.
would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it, but
Yeah. It pre-sold out, but there's probably going to be more. But that is certainly one of the highlights of Hasbro.
Nice.
So I actually have the Raven model from the GI Joe movie, that live action one that was released. Norton Antivirus. I think you guys were there. I got tickets to it from that. It's still in the box, so I've got that, and I have the same model from before. So this is kind of like in parallel with that, and I'm gonna be home in a couple of weeks. So what I'm saying here is I need to bring some things home and hide them at one of your houses. Okay,
Mine.
thanks.
If it's GI Joes, you can hide them
It's a
here.
terror drum. It's kind of big.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
you may have seen the also comment from my lovely wife Stephanie saying Tristan's home for wayward TVs is full. So
Yes.
okay, so we if we're lucky, we might be able to wrap this up almost in time here. I know, Will, you're still suffering from post-COVID symptoms, so we're close to wrapping up.
Yes,
Gray, you found a little trailer for us that got your attention. What's this about?
Well, this just looks fantastic.
So it's Ted Lasso, FIFA 23, official Ted Lasso. Now, did we talk? We didn't talk about this last week.
For him.
No. What did we? So, Will, you must be on board with this, getting Ted Lasso into
Oh
FIFA.
yeah, for sure.
Am I imagining things, or did we? Oh, maybe I just looked at it when you sounded.
We chatted about it
in the chat.
We did an
Internal
internal
chat,
chat, and
right.
I joked about him being the patron saint. of,
Right, that's what it
football
is.
teams.
Okay, so yeah, so I looked.
Yeah, and then someone found
Yeah.
a candle with his
that-
picture on it, like those
Yeah.
Catholic candles.
Yeah, you know what it is? I'm my memory is foggy because I'm so not used to us having stories like queued up in advance, like as opposed to same day. So that's like, did we talk about this on the show already? Was that last week? Oh no, it was a few days ago. Oh wow, research ahead of time. What a concept. So now, Gray, I don't.
Yeah.
You've never strike me as the biggest sports ball person. Would Ted Lasso, who I think is almost universally loved, would he convince you to give FIFA 23 a try?
I might give it a go. Somebody else has got it. Or when it goes on sale at the end of the year. This is a little bit bittersweet for me because for the last couple of years, a good friend over at Blink, his kids love FIFA, and I was kind of doing my best every year to try to buy it for them. And so I didn't do that this year because he's not there anymore. And so I miss him, and I miss kind of being able to do that. So yeah, it's great, and I'd love to see almost like maybe a mini episode of Ted Lasso using the assets from this game. I think that would be kind of cool.
Oh right, wow, bring it full circle.
At one point. So yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Will, are you a FIFA player? Are you going to get the Ted Lasso?
I have been. I haven't bought it for the last couple of years. My whole question is, there's no way they're putting this in the English pyramid. It's got to be under rest of world, because that would just mess up the English pyramid. Like, where would you put it in the English pyramid? Would you put it in the Championship or League One or League Two? You can't do that. Come on now, blending the real world and fantasy. So it's got to go in the rest of world category in FIFA.
Okay.
Or they have like season 1, Richmond, season 2, Richmond, season 3, Richmond. They're going to be each different.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Versus
because
Richmond be good.
Jamie
on,
leaves and then comes back. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Speaking of people that we miss, Chadwick Boseman will not be starring, as far as we know, in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And there's been a lot of speculation about who might be taking on the Black Panther mantle going forward. And the latest trailer seems to drop some pretty serious hints there. Will, what are your thoughts on Wakanda Forever? How interested, excited are you? Where do you think they're going to go with the storyline? Does it even make sense that they've killed Black Panther just because the actor has died? Like, is this something they're just having to make up? It's not in the comics. Yeah.
So I literally got the chills. So first of all, I got the chills. Trailers should do that, but this literally got the chills. For me, the big things here, obviously, is what they're going to do with Black Panther. There is some history and precedence in the books that Siri takes over as Black Panther at certain points. But Black Panther doesn't really die. He becomes king of the dead. It's a full
Hangs out in the tree with the other
long
Panthers.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, hangs. Anyway, so but there is precedence for Siri becoming Black Panther. Not that it always has to follow the books, but all I'm saying is that there's a blueprint there. It's not like they're going straight off the program. There's some backstory and some stuff that they can glean from. For me, the bigger things actually from this trailer, and they did reveal, I think, Siri as Black Panther. I love to see some of Namor. I love this sort of Latin American angle that they're taking on the Atlanteans, which is not really in the books. So that's kind of a very interesting angle. And to see Namor in that way, who's more of a villain in modern comic books than he was originally. So that's a character who kind of flies with wings in the trailer. And we also get to see a little bit of what I think is Ironheart at some point. So that's quite interesting. That's a character who's sort of like a younger Tony Stark female, and she builds her own Iron Man armor, and I think we see that at some point in the trailer. So those for me were actually the two big things. I kind of assumed Siri was going to be Black Panther because, like I said, there is a pathway there in the books.
Gray, do you think we might see the return of Killmonger at any point here?
Looking at the trailer, it's either like this is a massive misdirection, and yes, we will, but I don't think so.
He was a great villain.
He's a great villain, and considering like the nature of the ancestral realm, like we might see Michael B. Jordan come back as maybe a guide, but I don't know that we'll necessarily see him back in physical form. It would be interesting, but like I said, the first movie I loved, and seeing a powerful black woman take on this role that is going to be so central, I think, to the development of the MCU. Pretty cool. And yeah, I think this is probably the right choice. I don't know that a redemption story for Killmonger right now is the story that they want or need to tell. So I'd like to see. Yeah, I think it's Shuri's time. She was pivotal in some cases almost saving the world.
Endgame,
yeah, in Endgame, but even before that, with Age of Ultron, right? So, yeah, I'm hoping that that's the direction they take, because I think it's the right story to tell.
Well, in November, we will get to see how it all plays out. Nice to see. Well, I mean, this will be the third Marvel Cinematic Universe movie this year, and I'm not sure. Like, honestly, I enjoyed the Thor, Love and Thunder, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, but they were definitely middling, I would say, as far as the however many couple of dozen MCU movies that we've gotten so far. So it'll be interesting to see where this falls. I mean, there's Black Panther is widely loved, so they've got a high bar to meet there. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. I mean, that's the other thing is I don't envy the director, because this was he was on such a high from the first one. And he had even written a bunch for Chadwick Boseman, and he was not aware that he was sick. And so this is really, obviously losing Chadwick was very tragic, but it also just changed this franchise 100%. This wasn't where it was supposed to be going. So it'll be interesting to see how they turned it around and honor him as well. I'm sure they will.
Fingers crossed for Ryan Coogler. All right, let's wrap it up. We've got a couple of picks of the week here, and Will, you've got something for us called Serato stems. What are those?
Yeah, so what it is Serato has added stem support to their Pro DJ software. This is, and I think we've talked about similar type implementations in things like DJ by algorithm. This is big because this is such a widely used piece of DJ software, and also has hardware that takes advantage of these things. So the Pioneer S9, the Rev 7, the S11, just a lot of different things use Serato. I know, Tractors, the other one, and Record Box. So those are sort of the three big DJ DVS softwares. But this is a big thing to be able to change your stems on the fly. And stems are basically different parts of a song. So you can basically, you have a song, cut out the drums, right? Have a song, cut out the vocals, so you're just hearing the instruments. So you can put different vocals on different instruments on the fly with music that you're playing.
In real
crazy,
time.
right? So, and hardware support. Some of this is going to be hardware support. So this is a big deal.
Now, Gray, does Tractor have anything like this on their side?
Yeah, well, so Tractor actually did stems way back in the day, but the music had to be released as a stems file. And
Right.
so, what Will's talking about with Algorithm is there is an open source piece of software that basically slices music into stems for you. And Will's right, doing this on the fly in real time,
Game
supported
changer.
internally by the DJ software. This is huge. I was watching some of the demos today after you'd linked this, and it was like, it is awesome. And so here's the thing, like your hardware controllers are basically just MIDI instruments. So anything can be mapped to this, which means that this blows the doors right open. You've got a Denon, you've got a Pioneer, you've got a Tractor, doesn't matter. You can still use it with Serato. I use Serato as well. I use Tractor as my primary software, but you can better believe, because this is a free update as beta. I'm gonna download that tonight and start playing with it. But I was so impressed. Like Algorithm put theirs out. I can't remember, somebody else put one out as well. They were good, but you could tell like it felt rough. This feels polished. Like it's just as a DJ, it's so good.
So I've only used it for a hot minute. I literally downloaded it maybe about 3 hours ago. It's better than DJ. There are still times that you hear artifacts, but it's a lot better than it is DJ. I mean, it's doing a lot, so you can forgive it for little things. But for the most part, I find especially the musical part is better when it strips out the vocals than vocals stripping out the musical. I can still sometimes hear a little bit of the melody in the background if I'm stripping out the melody from the words, but that's hard because the tones, they tend to blend in, whereas it seems to be a lot better picking out voices from the musical end.
Yeah, it's amazing how much these machine learning driven pieces of software have brought us from the good old days where if you wanted to try to isolate parts while you're DJing live, like it's just fancy EQing. That's all, and it's only going to get you so much. But
one of the videos I saw today was EQs are dead, and I'm like, no, but writing's on the wall.
The other thing too that I tried right away is I've often tried to sample like TV shows and stuff, and there's laugh tracks or music in the background, and it cuts out a lot of that stuff, especially if there's music in the background. It's actually pretty good because the music tends to be on a TV show like quieter, unlike a song where they're kind of mixed similarly, but on a TV show the music will often be quieter than the vocals, so it actually cuts that out pretty effectively.
Great for ripping samples if you want to.
Great for ripping samples, exactly.
All right, Gray, your pick of the week, something called HyperKey. What is that?
This is a great piece of software that used to be sold, and it's now available for free. I think they have SuperKey, which is their suite that includes HyperKey. And this has one job only, and it does it well. It turns the caps lock key from something that you hate into a functional key. You basically shift it into any of the above modifiers or all of them. I am constantly left pinky on a caps lock thinking that it's the shift key because my password has capital letters in it. And then I'm sitting there going, why isn't this working? 3 or 4 times before I notice the little shift up arrow. I hate you. So this is now for free. It's great. If you have a Mac, go get it. You're welcome.
Now, my only question though is if you remap your caps lock key to be a modifier, how on earth are you going to yell at people on Twitter?
The same way that I would otherwise. I'd get my cat to sit on shift as I'm typing. That's how I've done it for years.
Sweet. Yeah. So that can be found at hyperkey.app. My pick of the week is related to one of my picks from a few months ago. Some of you may be familiar with a great Taika Waititi directed movie from several years ago called What We Do in the Shadows. And then now we're in season 4, I believe, of a related TV series called What We Do in the Shadows. Well, I just discovered a couple of months ago that there was another spin-off TV series from the movie based on there's two police officers that were in the movie, and they have their own show called Wellington Paranormal. And there's a few seasons of this. How many? What do we got? 4 seasons so far, and like of this quaint little, New Zealand quirky it's like a mockumentary type show that we might be used to that style from The Office or like Parks and Rec, something like that. Will is asking if we had not talked about it before. I don't recall. Maybe we have.
I think we
Have we? I did a search of the. I did a.
Hey, that wasn't meant for live.
It could be my aging brain. I thought I did a search of the rundown.
Are we showing people the inside the sausage here?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
We can do this after. We can.
Whoopsie. Let's go back to the right thing there. I've accidentally had that.
Yes. Sorry. I didn't mean to shame you on live TV.
So where did it go? Oh, you know what? This is stupid. Crave is not showing the trailer. Okay, you know what? We're going to do this live. We're going to go to YouTube and we're going to pull it up. Even if we have talked about Wellington Paranormal before, we're going to talk about it again very, very briefly. So it features 2 bumbling buddy cops, basically, and their chief, who is a paranormal enthusiast and keeps getting them on little missions, whether it's to investigate vampires or aliens or zombies or haunted houses that have the spirits or from the 1970s. Key parties are trapped there, and it's adorable. It's like a cross between Cops and X-Files with a dose of the Office in there. So forgive me if we've talked about it before, but if you haven't gone and watched it, go and do so.
Yeah,
it's a fun, quirky.
I didn't mean to shame you.
Oh, Will says line 586 in the sheet.
Don't say. Come on now. You're making me look like a jerk.
It's okay. That's what you get for making me look like an imbecile. Okay, I'll come up with a different pick next week.
I need to report a murder.
All right, so projects. Will, you've got a new... And we didn't talk about this last week. Oh, no, you sent me a thing on Instagram. That's right. All right, what is Retro 4? What can we expect from your latest looper?
Retro 4, again, as the number at the end of the name would suggest, it's the 4th one. And yes, retro is just because it's old style beats. So one of the retros was all electro beats. There's 2 or 3 electro beats here, sort of old school type vibes. One called Gangster Piano, which is sort of like a West Coast gangster rap type beat. One that's sort of like a Run DMC stripped down 808 type beat, and a couple electro beats. So I mean, I don't know. I think I've said this when I released Retro 3. I don't know how much people like these, but I like doing them, so I just keep making them. But yeah, so my last looper actually did really well. People seem to really like it. I've seen a few people use this one. It came out maybe on the weekend, but maybe not as popular as some of my other ones. But like I said, I just like doing them, so I keep putting out these retro loopers.
Now, are you posting about them on Twitter? Because I'm putting the lower third here with your Twitter account on.
Oh, I should be. I use my IG account a lot, actually.
Oh, you mean Insta?
Insta. Yeah, my Insta account.
So what's your Instagram username for those?
At Crossfader
Crossfader Ninja. We'll have to do a lower third for that coming up. Gray, any projects this week?
No.
How you liking your Apple Watch Ultra?
Oh, I am liking it so much. The hardware button to turn on the flashlight is awesome.
Oh, was that a default setting, or did you program that?
I programmed
Nice.
that one, and the red flashlight's my favorite at night because people up. But honestly, so it's great, and Apple Watch people have eagle eyes because this is actually like an Apple Watch 45 millimeter band, which works on the 49 millimeter Apple Watch Ultra. All of my bands fit, which is great. None of Ray's fit hers because she has the small, so she's still on my bands. But I was getting my vaccination today, and like the woman's talking to me, and she's just like, "Is that the new Apple Watch?" I'm like, "This is on my right hand. I'm getting my left arm," and she's like, "Eyes up here, please." But it's not the first person to notice that. And it's just people are seeing it. It's big, it's chunky, and I love it. Like, I can imagine Johnny Ive is probably rocking back and forth in a corner right now. And I'm sorry, Johnny, but you were wrong.
What have they done to my baby?
Apple is right. The $20,000 Apple Watch edition was hurtful. This at $50 more than the stainless steel, rock on. Love it. It's great.
I still kind of hope they bring the ceramic back, because I've never had a chance to pick up the ceramic one, and it looks pretty nice. I'd love a white body to go with the white strap. Would be pretty sweet. But I never pulled the trigger.
The back of this is ceramic, so they've still got the capabilities. They've still got the pipeline. I think you're probably going to see that. I think you'll probably see. I mean, I love the flat face on the Ultra. If there is an Apple Watch Pro, I could see that having a similar flat face, maybe a little more recessed, battery life that's probably better than the regular, but not as good as the Ultra, and maybe lower price. I don't know, but I could see that. And in ceramic, I'd buy one of those as well, just to have an extra. Because right now, this is my go-to-bed watch.
Perfect. And the flat face, you could have the world's tiniest charcuterie board. You could do the chopping on there and just like.
We did.
Reminds me of a friend of the show, Lindsay Smith. 10 years ago, she had an iPad when they were reasonably new, and she had brought her dog to the office. This is when we were working with Bradley, and the dog got sick and threw up, and she caught it on the iPad screen. And then you got a split-second decision. I want to get it on the floor, I suppose. But then she sprayed Windex on it. And then this touchscreen didn't work anymore. But luckily, it was temporary. So she managed to wipe it down with just damp cloth and rescued it. But just that whole image of like, oh no, blah. So if your cat or your tiny dog happen to, you could just you've got that 49 millimeter surface for them to vomit on. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes.
They can hook on the floor. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Our compatriot Tasia has a video this week as well, like clockwork, on her YouTube channel. The best hidden Google Maps features you should know. So if you're still rocking Google Maps, like a lot of people do, a lot of people forget how much better Apple Maps has actually gotten in the last 11 years. But Google Maps is still, pretty cutting edge too. Some people use Waze, which of course was bought by Google. Surprisingly, hasn't been killed yet. If you want to learn how to make the most out of Google Maps, check out Tasia's latest video at youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. And you can find out all her work at TasiaCustodi.com. And you can find out more about us here at Momentous at Momentous.tv and Momentous.tv/links. I had forgotten to mention it at the beginning, but I remembered it now. So there we go. We nailed it. Only 18 minutes long. Longer than we're supposed to, but what are you going to do? William, Gray, as always, a pleasure. We hope you and everyone else out there who might be watching, we hope your week is truly momentous.
Bye, Stephanie.